Hello, and welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
This is the podcast about murders and so much more. We will talk about anything strange, anything that goes bump in the night, and pretty much anything that amuses us.
And on that note, we need to mention that this podcast is not safe for work or delicate ears, so do be discerning who you listen to it with.
We also want to let you know that you can find us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, so look for us there.
I am Shannon Lawrence. I am a writer, mom, wife, student, procrastinator, and you can find me at thewarriormuse.com.
My name is MB Partlow. I am a writer, an avid reader, an organizer extraordinaire, a mom to kids, cats, and a dog, and I call bullshit when I see it. That's the best opening we've had. Just mad cackling.
That's right, because I started it after I did the thing that made you cackle madly.
Yes.
So.
People just think I probably randomly laugh.
It's true.
Well, I mean, I do. It's not wrong.
So.
Here we are.
We actually went to a movie at a theater, the Roadhouse
with
Theater again.
Other people.
We did.
I got to hug Becky.
Wow.
I haven't seen Becky in forever.
Yeah, we saw Antlers.
We did, and it was a grievous misuse of Graham Greene's talent to even...
It was. I was so... he's in the previews, so I thought he was a bigger part of the movie.
Yeah.
I love him. But, yeah, it actually wasn't a bad movie.
Oh,
It had good... It was slow. It's a slow burn. Intentionally, yes. But they cast it well. Except for Graham Greene. But the little boy that plays the main character is so well cast.
He did a really good job.
Yeah, he was good. And so anyway, well, I guess it's a giveaway to say even what it is, so therefore I can't bitch about it because it's not in the you're not supposed to know what it is. So yeah, I was a little aggrieved at certain elements of it.
Yes,
but
that were culturally inaccurate, shall we say?
Yeah, somewhat. But yes, because I'm all about accuracy there, which is what I try to do when I write about native lore, we'll say.
Okay.
So yeah, but it was overall in general good. Just go in. My sister and I were joking about a scene. So it's called Antlers, so it's not going to give anything away to say that there's something with antlers attacking people and there's a cop. And my sister is a cop, and so I was like, oh, do you think that? Because he puts on a bulletproof vest before he goes to deal with it. And I'm like, oh, you think that's antler proof? And she's like, well, they have stab proof ones. And I was like, all right, we'll see. And then we were all, it is antler proof.
And then we suggested afterward that perhaps we should get together with her and some antlers and
just test out her vest.
Try stabbing her.
I'm sure that wouldn't hurt like crazy as we pounded antlers into it.
I'm sure some of us would not try to stab her as hard as perhaps her siblings.
Well, that's true. We're certainly not going to bring our brothers in to try it. Jesus. That would go terribly.
That would, because she would fight back.
Especially, she would, actually. Yes. She took down, she made a name for herself in the academy. She took down a bunch of, you get attacked by multiple people. Yeah. And she did just fine. She held her own. She was like, I have 3 older brothers. And ours was a ruckus family. So,
yes.
Jeff came from a family where they didn't wrestle. I mean, he was ultimately an only child after a point. So he came into it, and my brothers were always the lead on because they were preteens and below, right? And so he learned really fast that big families with lots of boys, there's wrestling.
Well, yeah, we didn't either, but my brother was 13 years older. My sister's 10 years older, so it would not have been seemly for
I didn't do it because I was much older too, so.
You were ruling.
But then there were 3 brothers within, a couple of years of each other. There was physicality involved.
There were 4 brothers, but
yeah,
only 3 made it.
Only 3 made it. That's right. We also had spares, because we all brought in our own spare kids because our family was the one that absorbed those.
My stepdad used to say he had 9 children. So he used to say, and the number varied. He used to say, "Yep, we had 11, but." Only 9 could swim.
Yeah.
Because this house was right on the river, and it was right by one of the swimming holes.
That sounds amazing.
So,
do you wish you had that house still, right on a river? No?
I wish I had a house on a river. I don't wish I had that particular house, because that was the teenage kids swimming hole. It wasn't for little kids.
Oh.
Because it was not, there was no like beach. It was all rocks and you jumping off the rocks. And I mean, it was so, don't get me wrong. We were just talking about this online not too long ago. The hours and hours and hours we all spent there. And now nobody swims there.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
because kids are inside.
They're inside and there aren't as many as there used to be. Because it's a very small town to start with. And
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, in Oregon, it was always, there was Mill Creek and there was this and that. Like, even when I moved out there to get married, my uncle took us to Mill Creek. And I got to tell you, the creeks in Colorado, way different than creeks in Oregon. So there was a swimming hole in a creek that we could swim in and not touch the bottom in all the places. And that was a creek.
Oh, yeah. We had a swimming hole in the brook.
Right?
We had creeks and creeks. And
we were coastal. We weren't landlocked and water starved like we are here.
Oh, my God.
There's wonderful bits of water. You're just not allowed to swim in them. You can boat in them. So apparently having oil and such in a reservoir is perfectly acceptable, but not body bacteria. Even though, come on, there's bacteria up the wazoo in any...
yes.
I still not... It frustrates me. That's like the biggest frustration when we moved here from living California, Oregon, Maryland. You swam in the water. You walked to the lake.
Yep.
You swam at the dam. And then we moved here and they're like, oh yeah, there's water, but you can't go in it. Or you can pay a bunch of money at Palmer Lake to go into a natural bit of water. Although we might have had to pay at Detroit Lake in Oregon. I don't know.
And you can go down to the Pueblo Reservoir and pay to get in.
Right. You have to pay to swim. There's no free swim. Okay, there is, because we found it, and you're not supposed to be in it, but I had places I took the kids that nobody would find us, because have Jeep will travel. And I really don't give a shit what the rules are, because there's animals shitting in that water. So us wading in it, not killing anybody that I've noticed. It's
funny, because my kids are like, you swam here in this river.
Oh, I know.
Where you can't see...
the bottom.
What's in there. Yeah. I'm like, this is where I learned how to swim. It's one of the memories I have of my dad, is my dad and mom standing in, I mean, it was probably maybe up to their waist. Maybe. But swimming back and forth between the two of them as they were. And let me tell you, I am not any kind of graceful swimmer. I flail like an injured seal, but I can keep my head above water. I can dog paddle.
I did. I grew up in water. I can actually swim pretty well. I never had lessons, but my siblings did. So I kind of would watch.
Oh, I did. I mean, I had
I wanted to be a lifeguard. So the lifeguards were really sweet to me, because we moved from this area where we actually had a pool as it was part of the neighborhood, and you could pay, but I don't think it was that expensive because we couldn't have afforded it if it was. So anyway, the lifeguard, first of all, they all had the hots for my dad. And I had to hear about that all the fucking time. And my best friend's older sister had the hots for my dad too. So people talk to you, then you get brothers, and then they talk to you about that. But my revenge is I found out that that was flipped as well. So they got to deal with that shit too. But okay. But anyway, so they kind of took me under their little wings when I was 10, 11, and taught me all the lifeguard stuff.
Neat.
Like, I could even do the treading water holding like a brick or whatever the test was. And so that I learned how to do that, because they'd let us come early.
Oh, yeah.
And then hang out and do those things.
I'm fairly buoyant.
I was a stick, so I will not say I was buoyant. But I was a sturdy outdoor person. So, yeah, that was fun. That was like a fun time.
And we never had... I mean, it was a gang of kids went down. We went to the bend, which was an actual bend in the river. And that's where the littler kids went, because it wasn't there was a current, but it wasn't as fast, and it wasn't over the rocks. There weren't any rapids, and somebody always brought a salt shaker, but there was never anybody really in charge. You just went with a mob of kids and hoped nobody drowned. We didn't.
Well, yeah. I mean, we walked... I think about that now. I don't know how far it is. I kind of want to map it. But we walked to the dam to fish and to swim and stuff like that. And there were copperheads and there were giant snappers, although they hung out at the other end, and we'd go drop things in there for them to attack. And there were leeches and there were eels in this. Ooh, that's the most disturbing to me. They're just snakes in water. And then we already had snakes in water because the copperheads would go in the water.
So you grew up in a rural area when you have memories of... We're going swimming. Take a bar of soap.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, my mother was like, take the shampoo and a bar of soap.
And get it done.
Yeah, do it in the river.
Oh, I will say that Lake Elkhorn was filthy as fuck. Like, you didn't come out of it clean, so that was not going to happen. There was so much seaweed and green and... Oh, yeah, no, we came out dirty.
Yeah. I can't stand slimy seaweed. Blech.
I guess seaweed is wrong, but yeah,
water
there was,
weeds.
Yes, yeah. So I just remember how green and it had that thick smell that you get from those lakes that are super green. Mm-hmm. And like there was this stepped dam that went down into like a pond. So there was a pond on either end of the lake, basically, though the one was unofficial because there was a bridge and it just kind of cut in with dirt. So, but anyway, the dam, the concrete was covered in that slick green stuff.
Yes.
Thick. So yeah, you smelled Lake Elkhorn. I don't know if it's better now. I don't even know if it was man-made, which it might have been in that area. Because it was all kind of built to a specific purpose.
And here's the thing where we mostly swam, a couple of the places where we swam. One was a sand bottom, but the other were rock. So I'm accustomed to a rock bottom on the river when I'm swimming. So when I went to the James River in Virginia and I put my feet down, I was like, what the fuck is this? Because it's mucky on the bottom. They're like, it's the river.
Silter.
I'm like, where is the rock? And they're like, what is wrong with you?
That is because the ocean where I went, Oregon, it's smooth black rock. It's basically polished lava.
Yes.
Right? Is the bottom of the Oregon coast where I grew up. And then we go to Maryland and you're like, it's so silky on my feet.
I'm like, no, because I always feel like there's something sharp in there I'm going to step on.
I will say it was a hell of a lot warmer going from the Pacific Ocean in Oregon, to the Atlantic in Maryland. Like, you weren't warm at the Oregon beach. It's cold, it's windy. Mm-hmm. Like, really, even in the summer, sure, it's nice, but it's still not, I'm going to lie out and I'm going to catch the rays. No. So it does tend to be cloudier and foggy and stuff out there a lot more, but there's sun too. But anyway, you go to Maryland and I think that was the first time I got a burn. Which is fried. I have pictures of it because I've gotten fried maybe 3 times in my life because I'm a good tanner and I don't
can burn 3 times in a day.
I will say I started burning. I thought maybe it was age or something a few years ago, and like my face would get burned, and I'm like, what is happening? I'm not a person who puts on sunblock to go outside. This has never been an issue for me, and then it turned out it was medication I was on.
Some of them will make you more sensitive to the sun.
So I learned that.
That's a delight.
But I was not happy. I was like, do I just burn for the rest of my life now? Is this just my life? Because I was not equipped. I fried my Savannah, my daughter, at one point. So Gabriel doesn't really burn. He'll get pink cheeks. Mm-hmm. He'll get a little burn on his cheeks and it's gone within a day. And that's what I do. If I get a burn, it's minor and it's a tan the next day, I know. You hate me right now?
Kind of. Kind of.
But, so here comes my daughter, and she's blonde. And my family members didn't really burn. It wasn't even on my horizon.
Right.
My
radar.
My radar that this was a thing. I learned very quickly when the nice season came to get some sunblock, although she does actually tan very well too. But it was just... she is more like prone to burn than those of us who are darker.
Well, it was hell when the girls were little because if we were going to the park, I had to sunscreen them all over and myself. And it was just like, 3 days later, once we're covered with sunscreen. But the park was better than, let's meet at the pool. Oh, fuck. I'm going to have to start the day before putting the sunscreen on.
I don't even think we owned sunscreen when I was a kid. Like, I don't believe I saw sunscreen. I remember one time we got that, it was the 80s. So it was the white stuff you put on your nose, the zinc. Oxide or something.
Something like that.
And we got that one time and put it on and I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going out in public like this. I'm a preteen. Bite me. So that was the first I remember seeing because my dad was bronze. And to be clear, he's the white side of my family. But he like my husband tans like nobody's business too. He just goes bronze. Oh. He doesn't burn. My dad didn't burn. My mom didn't burn, but she didn't bronze like my dad, which is funny.
Freckle.
You freckle.
If I could smear the freckles around.
That's right. I did have a friend who freckled to the extent that it was the bigger Like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know, like light brown kind of freckles that a redhead sometimes gets. And it was literally like all it connected and
Yeah.
full color. That was fascinating for me.
Yes,
You know?
for you.
You grow up, I know.
Well,
I remember her spraying her hair to get with lemon or whatever
yes.
to get blonde highlight. All this stuff, like all these beauty things everybody else did when I was little. I was like, whatever.
Well, I've got this spot on the back of my hand, which you all can't see, but I'm showing Shannon. So my mom had the same spot in the same spot. My sister has the same thing, and so I have always. I mean, I've had it for a long time. I've always called it an age spot. And I said that to my sister, and she looked at me and said, "It's a freckle." And I was like, no, that's just an age spot.
That's it. Yeah.
My older sister. So I can't remember. The dermatologist had another name for it. She's like, I call them wisdom spots. I was like, that's kind of you. I think it's still just an age
Kind
spot.
of you. I do have moles. I got those from my dad. So I've got like I may not be freckly, but I've got those. And those absurd red, I don't even know what those are called.
Those little red
We've
dots?
discussed them. The red dot. I hate them. I'm getting them everywhere. And for some reason, like my chest is, maybe it's sun exposure.
No, it's broken blood vessel. I asked what it was.
Damn it. Can they be removed? I hate them.
I bet if you have a lot of money, they can.
Yeah, anything can
Would
be
you like
removed if you have
more
money.
medical bills? I didn't think so.
No. I just got 2 more.
I did not think that you wanted more medical bills.
No.
So we have to talk about the other two movies we saw together.
Oh, yeah. So we watched Horrible. So I own these on DVD. I've seen them a billion times. And then I found out that you guys hadn't seen.
Well, I hadn't seen the first one.
Yeah, but you had seen the other one. But I want to introduce you to the other one, right? Didn't we watch it when we were... Okay. So we watched Horrible Bosses for the first... Basically, it was a Jennifer Aniston lewd movie night.
And Jason Sudeikis.
That's right, because he's in both too. So we watched Horrible Bosses and We're the Millers. Which, if you like a little lewd humor...
Oh my God. It's so
they're
funny.
so fantastic. I just love Charlie Day is his name. The little high-pitched dude.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which I haven't watched, but I feel like I should because he amuses the hell out of me. He's so high-pitched, and then he's high... Something happens, and he gets accidentally very high. He's talking so fast. Chris Tucker could have really done that role since I talked about him last episode.
Yes, he could have.
But anyway, and it's just everything. The more upset he gets, the higher his voice gets. I don't think I can reach the heights his voice reaches.
And it was funny because watching Horrible Bosses, I was like, oh my God, these men have never gotten beyond being 14 years old.
They haven't.
That's how they...
Because even Jason Bateman's the most mature one of them all, right? He's always the straight man in comedies. Which his dry humor slays me. I've always loved him.
Yes. And why is he so attractive?
I don't know. He's a hot nerd. Nerd. He loves a hot nerd.
Really, really is.
But yeah, his sense of humor is fantastic. But I really like Jason Sudeikis, and everybody's talking about, what is it? Didn't you say the show that he's in? Ted Lasso?
Yes.
Okay.
Which you can tell.
So I looked it up. It's just on Apple TV, which we don't have.
I will never watch it.
Yeah.
Because I don't own any Apple devices, and you can only watch like 3 things, and then it says, I'm sorry, to continue watching, you need to download it on your Apple device.
To show up on another streaming thing.
Which makes me yell bad words at a loud volume when I've watched 2 or 3 episodes of something, and I'm like, what the fuck do you mean I need an Apple device? Burn in hell, Apple. Burn in hell.
So.
Pisses me off.
Yeah, it does.
A little bit.
I like Jennifer Aniston came into her own when she started making these movies. Because there's another one with Adam Sandler that I totally could have thrown into.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
I don't know, but she's his dental assistant or something like that. And he's hooking up with this younger woman, and he says that she's his ex-wife. Because somehow he gets caught in a bunch of lies. And so she goes on a trip, and he's going to bring his kids. But he doesn't have kids. Jennifer Aniston does. So anyway, she's like, invite your ex-wife and your kids then. So I forget how it gets that. But yeah, totally. It's a good movie. Yeah. And it's great because Jennifer Aniston has a rockin' body. And I feel like
she does.
She's what? My age-ish little look.
Yeah.
Okay. So mad jealous, but you can't not like her.
I'm looking around for a
she's
Siri
funny.
I can ask.
Because Siri,
or an Alexa.
Jennifer Aniston. But she rocks it in that with the Adam Sandler movie. Here's this young hot chick, and then she's just his assistant. He hasn't had his eye on her at all. She takes off whatever to go play in the pool. She has her bikini on with it, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Way better, more banging than this younger chick that's in the movie. No offense to her. She's sweet and she's pretty, and she has a good body too. But it's not Jennifer Aniston body, you know. So,
and I would imagine that Jennifer Aniston probably works her fucking ass off.
And probably hasn't had like a dessert in 10 years.
Hasn't had pizza in...
But, she
smells it. And
she's like, I'm so full. And I will never be that woman.
No.
So even when I was super skinny, it was against my will. And I ate all the time, so that had nothing to do with it. But... there's a scene in We're the Millers where they have her shaking in slow-mo. And I'm like, please don't ever do that to any woman ever. Because I don't care how good a shape you're in. There's jiggly bits that aren't necessarily the jiggly bits. And maybe the men just don't even notice that when that's on the screen. Because they're looking at the other jiggly. But all us women are looking at all those places we're insecure about. And even she's jiggling in the, you know, like her thighs or whatever.
Yeah. And they're all boob focused.
That's right.
So they're not...
And I'm like, why would anybody think it was a good idea to do slow-mo on a woman shaking?
She could have cloven hooves for feet, and there's not a man who there's not a straight man who watched that movie who would notice.
Straight man or non-straight woman, probably. But I don't know. Here, if you're not a straight woman, you're still going to look at the places that you're insecure about.
Although I have heard that people, in general... because boobs are life-affirming, life-giving. That it doesn't matter.
Check out boobs just as much as
it doesn't matter if you're male or female. If there's boobs, everybody looks.
Yeah, it's true. They're boobs. Hell, we touch our own, like whatever to adjust, to do whatever throughout the day. They're there. Sometimes they're hand rests. They're pretty convenient if you're sitting in a certain position.
You set your glass on them. Right there.
Right. I posted that picture. What is that with the 2 martini glasses? What did you learn what have you done during the pandemic? I was like, since I gained weight, I could do that now.
You could not.
I could not. I would fall off.
I would have to put a bra on.
Listen, if I put a bustier on, I could do that with the martini glasses. Like I did the sports bra during the pandemic and went, help! I can't breathe! What are these fleshy things doing in my face?
Have you ever seen dresses and they have shapewear built in underneath?
No.
So it's like a tank dress underneath the dress, except it's compression, you know, because it's like Spanx or something.
Yeah. So
I was in a thrift store and I found one of these dresses and it was my size. I do not kid myself. I don't go into any store and pick up a size 8 and go, I'm going to try this on for shits and giggles. Because what would I wear it as? A head wrap?
Why would you punish yourself that way?
So this dress was my size. So I wiggle into it, and I'm like, I can't breathe. But I show Amy, because she was Amy, sister-in-law Amy. And then I close the door of the fitting room, and I start trying to take this thing off. And she's like, and she can hear like these thuds on the walls of the little tiny thrift shop.
Just a body pounding into it.
And she's like... have you got something else on? And there's this muffled, no, I can't get out of the dress. I was like, I said, stand by because I might need your help or I might need you to get the jaws of life to get me out of this dress. I did eventually. I think I panic sweated enough to
slid off
to grease it up a little and get it.
I have a rule. I don't care how heavy I get or what out of shape. I refuse to wear shapewear. I got one Spanx type thing one time after, because we were going to a gala and I still had a nursing age child. And I got it and I wiggled into that thing and I said, fuck everybody who has anything to do ever with the invention, the creation, and the marketing of this piece of shit.
Yes.
And then I said, no, I don't care. You know what? If people don't want to look at my belly, they can, well, look at my boobs. I've got a great ass. Look at my ass. So I don't care, but I'm not wearing shapewear. That's my rule, and I'm maintaining that in my 40s.
I'm with you on that.
No.
I used to, and now I'm just like,
how dare they? How dare they expect me to wear that?
I'm like, where is it going to go? So if I suck in my middle?
It's going to stick out another place. And I'm sorry, it doesn't fluidly flow into my ass to make it bigger. It's going to bulge right above it.
Nor does it flow into your boobs.
No.
I mean, you can get something that kind of funnels it upward, but I'm like, no.
Absolutely absolutely not. So yeah, never, ever. I don't care.
I won't even.
Fuck you if you don't like my stomach.
I don't even wear control top pantyhose. Not like I wear hose very often.
Oh, I haven't worn. Well, see, I've done the Victoria's Secret garter hose for because they're silk. Oh my God, they're so soft. So they're like lace top. I stopped wearing normal pantyhose. I have sensory issues, so I couldn't.
I found a company though. Here's a total unpaid plug. It's called Snag Tights.
Oh, Victoria's Secret was unpaid too, but they're so silky.
Snag Tights are tights for every size. And they are comfortable. I get their chub rub shorts, and I get their tights, and I get their pattern tights. Now, here's the trick. They come from Scotland, so you cannot order your Halloween tights 2 weeks before Halloween and have a prayer of getting them.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind waiting for them to come over on a boat from Scotland, they are the best tights. They are comfortable. They don't bind you. And they have on their website... They're models. They have little skinny girls wearing them, and they have some really plus size women wearing their tights.
That's also what I like about Unique Vintage. Yes. Hey, we haven't plugged that for free in a while. It's because I haven't bought anything because I'm broke as a joke. But I love that that not only that, but they have all of the outfits in both.
Yeah, I do like that.
And also their non-plus size goes to a nice, it's not some absurd, you're either an 8 or you're plus size, which pisses me off. But
that's what thrift stores do. You go up to a certain number size, and then they just chuck everything in 1X, 2X, 3X.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, well, what do you consider? Here's the thing. The person hanging the clothes up, if it doesn't actually say 2X in the tag, it might say 20. It might say 26. I'm like, how are you training your people? Because apparently they just fucking check stuff on the rack wherever they feel like it.
Good to know when people are going shopping for that to look outside what they think might be their size.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, did we talk about books at all?
Nah.
Are we going to?
Do you have a matter to discuss the book right now?
I do not have to. I will save them for next time.
We might as well get started.
I am happy to. Oh, wait. I go first this time.
Yeah, you do.
Whoops. Let me grab my stuff.
That means I get to pop in ye old cough drop.
Yes. Not a fresh one, mind you, but ye old cough drop.
I saved this one. Suck on it a bit for every episode.
Do you leave it on the bedpost overnight?
Like gum?
Do you remember that?
Just lick it and stick it.
It's a song. Does the chewing gum lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? Not gonna sing it.
If you're thinking of starting a podcast or even just starting to research it, Buzzsprout is your go-to source for information and hosting. They have tons of videos and write-ups on everything you need to know about recording and distributing a podcast, and they even provide easy ways to get analytics on how your podcast is doing. We use Buzzsprout for our podcast hosting, and through them, we've been able to connect with tons of resources and distributors. Following a link in the show notes lets Buzzsprout know we sent you, gets you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for a paid plan, and help support our show. A win-win. Not only do they help you get started, but they also do small things to encourage you, such as awarding you badges as you hit various milestones. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world.
So I'm going to talk about the Barbara Mackle kidnapping. This is chucklefuckery and mayhem of the first order with some twists in it.
Who doesn't enjoy some chucklefuckery?
Are you familiar with this one?
I don't know. I usually know. I don't remember the names, and then you start talking, and I go, "Oh my god!"
Okay, so my sources are Thing 2, who brought this one to my attention. I have to give her full credit. Wikipedia, of course, a bail bondsman website called Your Tango, and Murderpedia. I went around lots of different places for this. Also, when I'm doing something, so this is set in 1968. So what I do when I'm writing these is I go on to, what's the stupid music? Spotify. And I put on music from 1968.
I was like, I don't know, what is this stupid music?
That stupid music streaming site. Which, they're not, if they would like to sponsor us, they're not stupid.
Yeah, that would. That's where I listen to all my podcasts, actually.
So anyway, I frequently will go in and put on music from that year. Obviously, it didn't work with the 1500. Just Gregorian chants, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so it's 1968. So what was happening in 1968 besides the Vietnam War? Richard Nixon was elected president. Yes, tricky dick. Yale announces it will start admitting women. Yeah, I rolled there. 1968.
Fuck you, Yale.
Yes. The Beatles released the White Album, which is one of my favorite Beatles albums.
That's funny because one of my favorite Metallic albums is the Black Album.
And I don't know why, I just found this immensely amusing. Parker Posey and Tracy Morgan were both born in 1968.
I like both of them. They're funny. Yes. What a good year.
Right? It was not a good year for Barbara Mackle, but so it's December. Jane Mackle drives to Emory University, which is just outside of Atlanta, to pick up and care for her 20-year-old daughter, Barbara. So at that time, the Hong Kong flu was going around. That was a flu pandemic that killed between 1 and 4 million people around the world. And it hit Emory University really hard. So Barbara wasn't doing well. She got the flu. So her mother came up, took her off campus. They got a hotel room so her mom could take care of her and treat her. There was no room in the infirmary at Emory University. And they had a hard time accessing medicine there just because so many students were sick. There's no problem with her, once they got off the campus. So Jane checked them into a roadway inn. So her daughter was able to recuperate and she could go back to campus and take her finals. And then they were going to drive 700 miles home to Coral Gables, Florida. You can picture this because that's, the mom taking care of her daughter. Mom's probably thinking about Christmas and worrying about her to-do list and what she's making for Christmas dinner and... I don't know, at the same time worrying about her daughter's health.
The 5 billion strings of thought that are going through any woman's head at any given time, but throw in mom and holidays in that mix.
Throw in the Hong Kong flu.
Yeah.
Right before Christmas.
And here I am, not even in the middle of the Hong Kong flu, and I put in a second contact instead of taking them out when I tried to go to bed because I was washing my hands and I was all... Just my brain, my muscle memory kicked in and I stuck another contact on.
Like I said, my brother-in-law just did that this week. So
it's a week for it.
It's something in the air. So December 17th, it's the middle of the night and there's a knock at the door. So when Jane looks out, she sees a man wearing a policeman's hat who says he's a police officer, and he tells Barbara that her good friend, now he's identified different ways. So it's her good friend, her boyfriend, her fiance, Stuart Hunt Woodward has been in a car accident. Now this type of thing would set off alarm bells for everyone listening to us. And for anybody now who's watching or listening to crime stories, you'd be like, nuh-uh, that's not how that works. But this is 1968. The man is Gary Stephen Christ, and he enters the room and brings in his accomplice, Ruth Eisenman Shear. I'm just going to call her Ruth because that last name is too long. She is disguised as a male police. She's disguised as a man, but she's also wearing the cap to present herself as a police officer as well. They attack and chloroform Jane, gag her and tie her up. They pull guns, force Barbara into the back seat of their car, and tell her that she's being kidnapped. So they drive her to a remote stand of pines approximately 20 miles away near Duluth, Georgia. They make her hold a sign that says kidnapped and take her photo. They force her into a fiberglass reinforced box and bury the screaming girl in a trench that they've already dug. Now the box has an air pump, a battery-powered lamp, food. It's got water laced with sedatives and 2 plastic pipes that will allow in outside air.
Oh.
So, ever thoughtful, Christ had left a note inside the box for his captive, and it was quite a long note. I'm not going to redo the whole thing because I'm like, oh, Jesus, shut up. In it, he brags to her that she's not going to be there long, that no matter what, she'll be home in time for Christmas, and that he has equipped her. He's bragging about how well equipped this little, very tiny prison is because there's a light and a fan that are both attached to a battery that will last for 11 days. It lasted for 3 hours. Mm-hmm. So, Barbara's father, Robert Mackle, was a very wealthy land developer in Florida. I didn't know there was any other kind in Florida.
Yeah.
So he was one of the first. So he was, yeah. So he received a ransom demand for $500,000, which I realize does not sound like a lot right now, but that's the equivalent roughly to almost $4 million in 2021 dollars. So he attempts to pay the ransom the first time, and 2 police officers drive by. Not planned, it just was a bad coincidence, but that disrupted the transaction. So the kidnappers did not get the money, and they fled on foot and abandoned their car, which the police then discovered. Inside was a photo of a man in a police cap and a registration in the car in the name of George Deacon. So the second attempt to pay the kidnappers was successful, but after the payment was made, they went silent. So it's all, where's Barbara? Mm-hmm. So the FBI traces George Deacon to the University of Miami, which is located in Coral Gables, excuse me. So guess what? George built ventilated boxes for a living. When his employers when his employers were questioned, they gave Ruth's name as an acquaintance or someone that he hung out with. In fact, Ruth was his girlfriend. She moved in with him after he went home not long before this, I believe, and told his wife and the mother of his 2 children that he didn't love her any longer, and he was pretty much done being married. So she packed up and moved to California, and Ruth moved in. Yeah. It was just, yeah, because they were having the affair before he told his wife to leave. So in a giant piece of luck, the FBI in Georgia is contacted by a man who had just purchased a small trailer from a man and found suspicious paperwork in it. And that consisted, where did that come from? There were letters addressed to George Deacon and Gary Christ. Now, Gary Christ had escaped from a California prison in 1966, and by comparing fingerprints, the FBI was able to determine that Deacon and Christ are one and the same. Now, Christ was in prison for stealing cars. He had started getting in trouble, I want to say, when he was 14, and there was a string of robberies, but I think this one was car theft. Finally, because maybe he was feeling guilty, Christ calls the FBI switchboard on December 20th and gives some vague directions to Barbara's locations. But he didn't feel guilty enough to give, really accurate instructions. So it took 100 agents in the field searching and digging, sometimes with their hands. They're just looking for anything that could be where she was buried. And they finally see the pipes. They find the pipes and dig and get her out. She was found and freed, suffering only from dehydration. There was a quote, I'm going to quote what was written on Wikipedia. Mackle was asked how she had remained so positive not only during the kidnapping but after, when she showed no ill effects from the ordeal. She claimed she would imagine spending Christmas with her family and never doubted she would be rescued. So, Christ was found hiding in a swamp and arrested. Ruth was found and arrested in Norman, Oklahoma 2.5 months later. She was also the first woman to make it to the FBI's 10 Most Wanted list.
Nice!
Right? She was sentenced to 7 years in prison, served 4, and when she was released, was deported back to the Honduras, which is where she was from.
The Honduras?
The Honduras. To Honduras. I don't even have the written down. I don't know why. The.
Capital T. Honduras. Honduras.
Anyway, she married and had 4 children. Just a little, tie that loose knot off. So, this is where the story gets weird.
Oh.
Right? This is where the story gets weird. So, in 1969, Christ was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. So, I had to look this up. Well, first, 8 jurors wanted to give him the death penalty, but there were 4 holdouts who wanted him to get life in prison. So he does. Now, in the U.S., for your FYI, life in prison actually means the person will be eligible for parole in approximately 15 years. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? I did not realize that. So now I know.
Life's not life.
No. But that explains why they give consecutive life sentences. Yes. Christ was paroled after 10 years. In addition, he got a pardon. He was granted a pardon to allow him to attend medical school. I'm just looking. Shannon's mouth was actually open and nothing was coming out.
Well, he's a very promising young man. And so they didn't want to hurt his chances.
Apparently.
Apparently that's been around a long fucking time.
Yeah. A pardon, for anybody who doesn't know what that is exactly, is a government decision to allow a person to be relieved of some or all of the legal consequences resulting from a criminal conviction. I just learned so much researching this. So, did anyone else just say, what the ever-loving fuck? Served 10 years, then got a pardon.
Sadly, I'm already well attuned to what life means.
So, he practiced medicine in Indiana until his license was revoked in 2003.
And why was it revoked?
For lying about a disciplinary action during his residency. Apparently, he wasn't very forthcoming about the whole kidnapping and burying.
Huh.
So apparently now, I'm like, what the fuck med school took him? And do we now have to say to our doctors, hey, have you ever kidnapped anyone and buried them in a box?
Well, did the pardon come with a wiping of the record?
It may have. It didn't say anywhere. But I'm like, how do you reconcile kidnapping someone and burying them in a box with a Hippocratic oath?
Uh-huh. You don't.
So, some newspaper reporters found out who he was, and they published the story, and then he lost his license.
Rock on.
But he didn't sit around. Because, why would you when there are drugs to be smuggled? Because if you can't practice medicine, what is your next logical step? Drug trade.
Yeah.
Right? So in 2006, Chris was arrested off the coast of Alabama with 31-ish, it varied, but more than 30 pounds of cocaine paste and 4 illegal aliens on his boat.
He's just such on a roll.
He is such a humanitarian, that man.
He is a criminal mind from the beginning.
He was sentenced to 5 years and 5 months in prison, and he was released in November of 2010 after serving 3 years. In August of 2012, a U.S. district judge revoked his supervised release for breaking parole as he had sailed his boat to Cuba and South America. Can't imagine what he might have been doing in either of those places. So, as of September, the most recent thing I could find, there have been articles written, but most of them don't mention where is he now. Mm-hmm. They don't say, and it was hard to dig this up. So the most recent one I got was 2016. He was living in a nice but remote house near Auburn, Georgia. A reporter and a photographer for one of the papers went and drove to his house, knocked on his door, and he did open the door. There's a picture of him, but he's got his arms crossed in front of his face.
Yeah.
He didn't slam the door, but So, and they were like, yeah, it's way out in the middle of nowhere, but it's a nice house. It's a pleasant looking house, but that's all they had to say. So he is free. I don't know what he's living on.
Free to be he.
Free to be who he wants to be. Barbara Mackle and Chris each wrote books about the experience. Mackle's book was turned into a TV movie that aired. It's when your eyes get ahead of your brain and your notes. A TV movie that aired once in 1972 because there was a question about rights to the story, who owned the rights to the story. And then there was another one that aired in 1990, and I believe there was a low-budget horror film.
Yeah, it's inspired quite a few.
Yeah,
stories.
I can't remember the specific one they named, and I didn't write it down. So Barbara, even after she went through all this, she apparently really didn't suffer any long-term effects from it. She actually supported him being paroled.
Okay.
I can't even understand that. The look on your face, I'm like, nope, I would be like, yes, I parole him and
I'll be paying him a visit.
Yeah, I'll be right outside the gate waiting for him. she claimed, her claim is that she knew she wasn't going to die in that box.
So she felt okay about, yeah.
Yeah. So she eventually married Stuart Woodward, the man who they said had been in the car accident, who wasn't. That's how they got in the room in the first place. She did eventually marry him, and they were married for 43 years until he died in 2013. They had 2 children together, and after writing the book, she does not speak publicly about it. She's like, I'm done.
It's fair. Here it is. Read it if you want to.
She said that was exactly what she said. Here is my story. If you want to know what it was like, it is all in here. I would like to move past this, so I'm not going to talk about it.
That's the thing. Victims of various things, they don't get to move past it because there's always somebody who wants to ask them about it, or there's always a TV special, or it's going to pop up in your face randomly and bring everything back.
Yep.
And that's what we as a society do to our victims.
And there was a lot of people talked about
the person who has a true crime podcast.
A lot of there was a lot that focused on how calm she was once they got her out, and how even keeled she was, and how she wasn't hysterical, and nobody talked about the fact she was screaming when they buried her. She screamed for hours after they buried her in that box, right?
Maybe that's why it only lasted for 3 hours.
That could be.
She screamed. Whenever I watch movies where somebody's in there and they're just screaming, I'm like, stop it! You're using your oxygen! I get so mad.
Yes. My thing is, when they have the 2 plastic pipes going out so she'll have air, I'm like, what if something sits on the pipe? What if something crawls down the pipe? There are snakes in Georgia.
God, there are snakes in Georgia. There are a lot of bugs and creatures and snakes. Yeah.
I'm like,
I would have just been waiting for that, and they're probably the snakes.
Yeah. I'm like, could you is there a screen over the top?
I hope so.
Probably not, though.
I remember, when I randomly hear a story or whatever, I went to Jeff and I was like, hey, we do have a screen so the snakes can't get in through our dryer, right? Our dryer vents. And he's like, yes. And I was like, I'm just making sure. You should make sure that's still intact.
He's like, yes, honey, I know who I married.
That's right.
But I just found this amazing. First, that she was able to go on and have a normal life.
Yeah.
That it turned out so well.
The note worked so well that she could be at peace after she finished screaming.
Yes. But the fact that he was escaped from prison, and he escaped from prison the first time, went to prison a second time, and somebody still decided, hey, let's let him be a doctor.
That you commit a crime and you just don't get held to it.
Apparently, if you have a penis, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's Barbara Mackle. I'll step off my soapbox now. What are you going to talk about?
I'm going to do the disappearance of Belle Elmore.
Oh.
Sources. History Press. Cool, interesting stuff. PBS, Secrets of the Dead. California Digital Newspaper Catalog, historical newspapers.
Ooh.
The Crippen marriage was a mess from early on. Dr. Holly Harvey Crippen, say that 3 times fast, a dentist, and Cora Turner, whose original name was, wait for it, it's going to be so butchered.
Wait, what's her name? What's the name?
Cora Turner.
Cora.
Kunigunde Makamachki, of Russian, Polish, and German descent. So I don't understand that first name. Like, which descent is that? Kunigunde. Okay. So they got married in 1893. That's the last time I'm saying that name. This was his second marriage, and Cora had been living with another man when they married. Cora had many aspirations, which her husband was known to support, even though they usually ended with no success. She first tried to be an opera singer, then a music hall singer. It turned out that she wasn't actually a talented singer, but she did end up the treasurer of the Music Hall Ladies Guild in London, and she also took on a show name, and that was Belle Elmore. This is the story of the disappearance of Belle Elmore. That was her public name. Dr. Crippen was quiet and unassuming, where Belle was brassy and flamboyant. I'm going to be posting pictures of them, and I love, you would never connect these two people. He's this tiny little mousy man with his little glasses and his little haircut and his little mustache, and just so unassuming. And then there's Belle, and she has the big hat with the big feathers and the floofy hair and the, Victorian, just, She reminds me of the unsinkable Molly Brown, is what in my head she's comparative to.
They do say opposites attract.
I don't think they attracted. Honestly, we're going to find out. I don't even know why they got married. In 1900, Holly Crippen took a job with Munyon's Remedies, moving them from Jersey City in America to London, England. Munyon's Remedies were homeopathic remedies, and he was a representative then. So he wasn't doctoring, but I'm sure being able to say Dr. Crippen was representing these was good, even though he was a dentist. Okay. Despite being seen as overbearing, Belle made friends with folks in show business, making connections, even if they didn't lead to a job as a singer. Still, she was well known and had many loyal friends. In September 1905, they bought a house that would allow them to have separate rooms. Belle, they said she was not a sexual person. She did not enjoy sex. So again, why did they get married? And within 2 years, the couple would stop having sex at all. And they simply coexisted in this house in their separate bedrooms. Whatever the state of their marriage, Dr. Crippen fell in love with his typist, Ethel Leneve. They became lovers around 1907, which is about the same time he stopped having sex with his wife entirely. And they were meeting in secret for the next 3 years.
It doesn't sound like his wife was terribly unhappy about it.
Honestly, I can't even be mad about, I've said I have a thing about adultery, but I can't even be mad about it. It doesn't even sound like they were really married. Like, why were they married? It seems like a marriage of convenience, but there's nothing about why they got married. Maybe they were in love at first. I don't know. On January 31st, 1910, the couple held a dinner party with two of their friends, the Martinettis. The Crippens got into a fight over a minor issue that night. Mr. Paul Martinetti needed to go to the bathroom, and Belle got mad because Holly did not escort him upstairs to the bathroom. So they got into this fight in front of their friends, little dust up, and then it was done. And by the way, when I'm saying Holly, his name is spelled Hawley. Dr. Crippen.
Okay.
So dust settles. They go on with their dinner. Their friends leave at 1 a.m. Good night.
Couldn't have been too awkward if they stayed till 1 a.m.
But then nobody ever saw Belle again after that dinner party.
Oh.
She was a vivacious and social woman, so people questioned when she didn't make any sort of appearance just the next week. Like, that was already odd to them. So people were asking him. And Holly just kept saying, oh, she went on a trip to America. She left the next day. She went on a trip. The longer she was gone, the more people asked. And he started telling them, oh, she's gotten very gravely ill there in America, so she can't come back yet.
Oh, Holly.
I know. He finally told people she died of this mystery illness while in America. And unfortunately, his story of her death came after his lover Ethel had been sighted wearing Belle's jewelry and mink stole. So when he moved her into the house in late February, again, this dinner party was January 31st, so less than a month, eyebrows shot up.
And February is a short month.
So she'd already gone to America, gotten ill. And by the way, transit then was by boat. It was a very slow process. So, yeah.
And would it, the information would have come by telegram?
Ooh, that's going to come up in a moment.
Oh,
just
okay.
wait. So her friend, Kate Williams, who was a professional strong woman, went to Scotland Yard, refusing to believe that her friend would suddenly disappear in America without sending her any sort of note.
Or say goodbye.
Right. So months later, on July 8th, Chief Inspector Walter Dew, does that sound like something that should be in like an Agatha Christie? Dew, D-E-W, Dew. Chief Inspector Dew.
Inspector Dew.
Visited Ethel and Holly at the home. She was living there. And in fact, there was this whole complicated thing in like one of the articles about he showed up there and Ethel was there alone and he had to go to work and get Holly and bring him home. And I was like, whatever, so I didn't write it down. Ultimately, what he did is got them together in the same place and spoke to them, and he wanted to look around the house. And Holly said, of course, I'll show you around the house. And they're talking, and all of a sudden, Dr. Holly Crippen, confesses he'd been lying to avoid humiliation, he said. In fact, Belle had left him for another man. He suspected it was an American man that she'd met years before named Bruce Miller. He further stated that she had threatened to leave him for years. The inspector said he needed to hear this from her, so Holly agreed to go put ads in papers asking her to contact the police. Despite this promise, the very next day, Holly shaved off his mustache and fled with Ethel, who had dressed like a boy. So it's July 9th now. They first went to Brussels, and then they bought tickets to Canada on the SS Montrose. Ethel continued dressing as a boy on the ship, and they registered as a man and his son. When Dew returned to the house and found they'd disappeared, he searched it again. This time, without Holly just showing him around, they found a hidden area in the cellar behind loose bricks, within which, this is weird, within which were portions of a female torso. There were no bones. So it was fillets of flesh.
Ugh.
Is how it was described in one of the articles, that they had been filleted from the body, and there was just flesh. Like, nothing else. No head, no limbs, no bones.
My God.
In the meantime, people aboard the SS Montrose didn't believe the two oddly affectionate people were father and son. And the clothes didn't fit her, and it was probably his clothes, right? Because they didn't go out shopping. So anyway, Captain Kendall of the ship sent a message to Scotland Yard via Marconi telegraph.
Oh.
Just so people know, this is in the history books as the first crime solved involving a telegraph.
Nice.
Dew suspected they were the missing couple, and so he gets on a boat, the SS Laurentic, that is faster boat. It's supposed to arrive faster, and it does. So the couple is still in their boat on the St. Lawrence River when Dew gets
very familiar with that.
In local police, get in contact with him and with the ship, and they're able to board the ship on the river. And sure enough, it's July 31st at this point. Again, takes a long time to travel by ship, and yet she was ill and then dead in America before she probably would have even gotten there by boat. And so anyway, he gets on there, he busts them, and he arrests them. I actually have a photo I'll post of Inspector Dew escorting Dr. Crippen with his face covered off of the boat gangplank. It was a pretty neat picture. So he returns them to England within 3 weeks. They are arrested, all of that good stuff. Crippen's trial lasted from October 18th to the 22nd. It's a pretty fast trial, actually, right? For supposed murder. He said he had no knowledge of the body in his basement, that it must have been there when they moved in. There were just filleted body parts that hadn't yet rotted away when they moved in several years before. The prosecution was able to show that a piece of flesh had a scar that resembled one Belle also had. Her strong woman friend had talked about this scar.
Maybe that's why Belle wasn't interested. Maybe she was interested.
She was hitting it round with a strong
woman friend.
Could be.
Who would be intimately familiar then with scars on her body.
She would. The chunk had been wrapped in a top of a pair of pajamas, and it had the tag on it. It had been made by Jones Brothers, which I assume back then was like a department store, right? Like, wasn't it usually the department store brand? Because I hear about them in the London bombings and stuff. And they were that. But anyway, the Jones Brothers. And the pattern had come out in late 1908, proving the body had been put into the cellar after the Crippens moved in. The final nail in his coffin came when tests of the tissue showed traces of poison, specifically hyoscine. Holly had bought 5 grains of hyoscine on January 17th. About 2 weeks before her death.
The poison
before
used?
Her disappearance.
Normally, what would that... you don't know.
Boop.
Okay.
Didn't look it up. Miller, the man Holly claims she had left with, was put on the stand. They did find this poor Bruce Miller, or whatever his name was, and he was like, first of all, I barely know her. We didn't have anything romantic. I don't even understand why Crippen dragged me into this. He's like, I've got nothing for you. Yeah, that's him on the stand. It was in the newspaper articles. He's like, I don't even know her that well. Like, we've met.
Yeah.
So he's like, why did he bring me in? So it came out in the trial that Holly had actually pawned Belle's jewelry after her disappearance. Whatever he didn't give to Ethel.
Well, yes.
Holly Crippen was found guilty and put to death on November 23rd, 1910, at 48 years old. He requested a photo of Ethel and some of her letters be buried with him in his unmarked grave, and they allowed that. Now, Ethel was tried as an accessory. On October 25th, she was found not guilty. They felt she didn't know what was going on. Some people in some of the articles were like, yeah, she was pushing him to leave his wife or whatever, but I only saw that in those old articles. You know how they blow it, how dramatic those old articles are?
They were very tabloid-esque.
Yeah, so I don't know. Because if she was found not guilty, maybe she... Anyway, before his execution, Holly had written a letter to Ethel saying, quote, face to face with God, I believe that facts will be forthcoming to prove my innocence. But the story doesn't end here.
Bum, bum, bum.
This was a famous case. They actually now refer to it as like the O.J. Simpson trial of that century.
Oh, wow.
It had been blasted all over the world.
Yeah.
Scotland Yard were seeking this fleeing couple. They were getting all this pressure. They were like, why haven't you solved this yet? And I imagine part of that is because she had those famous friends and maybe they were getting that. Right. They were very verbal, outspoken. And so the details didn't make sense for people that are looking at it now. If the body had been filleted, where were the rest of the pieces? Why cut out this section in the cellar and put a couple chunks of flesh, right? Like, why would you keep any of the flesh if you had found a way to get rid of the body that nobody ever found?
Good point.
Yeah. Why would someone poison another person only to chop them up in the end? Poisoners usually did it to make it look like an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So that they would not get in trouble. Right. And, or like a natural death even. And poisoners rarely had the balls to chop up a body. That's why they were poisoners.
Because that was my thought was after it happened, that was how they disposed of the body. They cut it up and they just hadn't had time to get rid of all of it.
Right. But if you were able to get rid of a head and limbs and bones.
Yeah. Why would you be able to get rid of 95%?
Why would you, were they going to eat the steak? The filet steak? The scar steak? I don't know. A forensic toxicologist was able to travel to England to test the remains left behind. He worked with a DNA expert and a genealogist.
Where the hell were they storing them?
I don't know. Fridge, freezer, some of it had been eaten for lunch accidentally. Because, people steal people's lunches. Anyway, he worked with a DNA... Why do you ask me these questions? The DNA expert and a genealogist, and they were able to go through all the evidence and kind of reopen it. And they were able to reach relatives of Belle's, distant relatives, compare the DNA, which showed there was absolutely no match.
So that wasn't Belle.
Wasn't Belle. Not only that, the testing showed the skin belonged to a male, not a female. Within the evidence, they also found a letter from Cora saying she was living in America, had zero plans of making an appearance to keep him from being executed. Like she had sent him a mocking letter. He had turned it into the police and they felt it had been faked.
Okay.
And so that it was never presented in court. One of his relatives has actually now requested a pardon from the British government, and he's asked that they send his bones back to America. But I'm like, so I saw that, but it had specifically said he'd be in an unmarked grave. It was like a pauper's grave from prison when you're put to death. So whatever.
It's unmarked, but I bet they're still numbered.
Yeah.
I know who's buried where.
So who knows? But I looked, that was in 2008, and I wasn't able to find an update on it with the British. You'd think that there'd be like a little snippet somewhere.
Yeah.
If they were like, we have pardoned this notorious criminal. But I still have questions. First of all, nobody has ever tracked down Cora. Okay? Like, at no point have they been able to prove that she actually was in America. The letter could have been faked.
Right.
And I would be shocked if the British government would do a pardon based on that. But then there's the toxicology results and all that DNA. But what if those samples, who knows how well they were stored or labeled? Yeah. Were they even the right samples?
That would be my question.
Has anybody tried to track her down after the fact? Did the cops plant the evidence? And if so, what strange evidence for cops to plant is a couple fillets of flesh?
Why would they be carrying that in their pocket to a crime scene?
And where did the pajamas were confirmed to be? Like, Cora shopped there. She wore that brand. And if he was so innocent, why did he flee the next day? Why did he spend a month lying? Once the police come, honestly, who gives a shit if she left with another man? You say she left with another man to the police, to her friends, whatever. I don't care what you say to them. You don't owe them anything. But he fled. They disguised themselves and they fled one day after the police came and searched the house and found nothing.
He changed his appearance and his girlfriend changed her appearance.
Yeah. So I personally don't think that he's been completely cleared.
No.
I get that the evidence that they tested says that it's not there, but the evidence was weird in the first place to me. And I know that in history, cops who are frustrated, who know somebody did something right, have been known to plant evidence because people get so mad when somebody doesn't get convicted or charges don't get pressed, but you don't take it to court until you can prove it. And sometimes you just can't prove it. And so I know that there's been stuff planted, but what strange evidence for cops to plant? You would plant a body then, or you would plant more than a piece of flesh.
Yeah.
Because I get that you want it so that they can't prove it's not her, right? So anyway, there are just way too many unanswered questions. The entire thing is bizarre when it boils down to it. Like, why assume that they're going to decide you're guilty when they searched and found nothing?
Yeah.
and flee. I mean, they found nothing. Had they come back and had they come back and they were there, would anything even have continued with that?
Although, here's my question. When they searched the first time, it's not like they were served that they served a search warrant like we would think of a search today.
No, they just walked in and he said, let me show you around.
Yeah, so
there's absolutely nothing that's putting yourself like, all right, I'm going to convince them everything's normal. What would I do if I weren't guilty? I would show them around. Say, sure, search my house. There's not jack shit here. And the thing is, they found the body because there were like loose bricks in the basement on the ground too. And then they were like, wow. And then they felt around and they found it. And so
that's just weird.
The whole thing's really bizarre. Like, it seems like nobody was honest in this. And honestly, was she dead or alive? We'll never know.
No.
Unless somebody turns up. I mean, how many people have come forward and said they think their father was Jack the Ripper? You know, so many. And there's at least one that's come forward and said that he thought his father or somebody was the Zodiac and all this stuff. And nobody's come forward and been like, yo, Cora here, she moved to Hollywood. She got into some movies.
Yeah. Or she was in New York. She was singing badly.
She thought she got kicked off of Off Broadway.
Yeah.
So it just seems she wanted to be this famous person. You'd think that she would have become a name there.
It seems very odd that she would, it would seem very odd that she had these friends. If she was going to be able to make a name for herself, she would have
used those connections.
Yeah. So why would she decide? I can understand leaving her husband. That's not the question.
But since if she left and she didn't know that he was lying to people saying that she was, then why she wouldn't have disguised herself? She would have been her. She would have probably been Belle, right? She would have been Belle Elmore there. So that should have been really fucking easy to hunt down.
Unless I could see it maybe if her friends convinced her, you need to go be on Broadway.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood wasn't a thing yet. Was it? Or
I have no idea. But I don't even know if Broadway was. But there would have been something. She tried to be a saloon girl, right? Or a music hall girl.
But her friends would have said, oh, yes, we told her to go.
And I bet some of them would have gone with her.
Yeah. She sounds like she was a pip.
Yeah. So, it just seems like such a flamboyant personality who originally, I could see her being a vengeful bitch after she found out he was
right.
But before then, there would have been no reason for her to be in that mindset.
Yeah, it actually doesn't, the letter doesn't make any sense.
And their marriage sounded more indifferent than hostile.
Yes.
They just coexisting human beings.
Yeah, and it sounded like the argument they had, it didn't sound like a bad one.
No, and they went back to normal, and then the people hung out because they wouldn't have chilled until 1 a.m.
I wouldn't think so.
I'm sure he peed before then. So, it's just a silly, silly little skirmish.
But why would you... But that just still begs the question of why there was a chunk of big fillet of human flesh.
Yeah.
In their basement.
Right. It's just so bizarre to me.
I mean, I get it. If the police walk in and they see something wrapped in a pajama top and what the hell is it? Why is there pajama top down here and unwrapping it? I get that, but...
Yeah. I don't understand why a killer would keep it or why that's what the cops would plant. I guess for me, it doesn't work on any of the levels.
No.
And for it to still be in existence for them to test.
Unless...
Because that didn't exist. There was no DNA. There was no...
Unless... What was the girlfriend's name?
Kate something.
Unless Kate was trying to get rid of both of them.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but she convinces her husband to murder Belle.
Oh, you mean Ethel?
Who was Holly?
The new girlfriend was Ethel.
Okay, Ethel. So Ethel convinces Holly
to take her out.
To take her out so we can be married. So he does, and she says, "I will get rid of the evidence."
And she keeps a fillet of flesh.
And she keeps a big chunk.
She was She was like a meek little typist.
Yeah. And
you see her, she's nowhere near as flamboyant because they have a picture of them in court. So, yeah, I'll get rid of the evidence, but I will also break through your brick cellar wall and hide a piece of flesh in her pajama top.
Maybe it was insurance. I don't know. You can't make it.
It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So that's the thing. I'm like, all the experience with true crime and all that, I can't make heads or tails of any of it.
No.
I don't think he should be pardoned posthumously.
No.
Because I don't think that they can prove that that's even the right flesh.
There is not strong enough evidence.
So, no. And who cares? Like, he didn't have children. So, at least I don't think he had children. So, this is just like a relative. Like a distant relative, like, because he had a sister or something. I don't know. So, and also, what if they tested the flesh against, I mean, the whole it's a male, not a female thing throws a wrench into this. But I was like, what if that distant relative wasn't actually, maybe they were adopted and didn't know it? Maybe, like, who knows with DNA? And DNA, you get a different percentage depending on whatever. I mean, anybody who's done the racial DNA knows that you can get a completely different result from your sibling. They have stories about that all the time. Yep. Twins can test different. And not like one can have this and the other one won't. So anyway, DNA is fascinating. I think it's still a hugely flawed science.
Yes.
But yeah, the story is always, it's a quiet little case for me, right? But it's weird. It's still an unsolved mystery as far as I'm concerned.
Because this could be a choose your own ending book.
It could. Write a whole story about it and do whatever.
Yeah, nobody can say you're wrong.
It could be twisted and weird and still make more sense than the reality.
Yes. It could be a romance. She ran off to America and fell in love
But not with Bruce.
No.
Because he's like, I don't even know her that well. All right, let's ask the question. What's the most intriguing missing person case that you know of? Like, tell us the one that's caught your attention.
Yeah. We want
Jimmy Hoffa.
We have a joke about Jimmy Hoffa at our house.
That's because you're from New York.
But it's Joe's joke, and he's not from New York.
Oh, that's how it works.
New York.
New York. New York.
I can remember being, where the hell was I? I was in Virginia, meeting some people who had born and raised in Virginia, and they're like, oh, we're talking. Where are you from? New York. No, tell us you're going to the mall. And I said, I'm going to the mall. No, say you're going to the mall. And I said, I'm not, but why do you want me to say I'm going to the mall? And they finally said, no, say it in New York. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to the mall.
The mall.
Oh my God, I'm going to the mall. And they were just delighted with that. And I'm like,
I never lived anywhere with an accent. So all I ever got was, what's that in your language? When they knew, that I was native. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, my language is English.
In my language, that's fuck you.
I think that hit me the first time. I got asked that the first time in high school. And I was like, well, exactly as I already said it. Go fuck yourself.
I have occasionally perhaps asked you, what is that in Spanish? Because I know you speak
I do.
A little bit Spanish. So.
That I know.
But I'm like, no.
Yeah. So, but no, I don't have a fun accent. I do because I get stuck in, I pick up accents really easily and I get stuck in them. And I have had people from that area, oh, are you from such and such? And I'm like, oh my God, no. And I'm so sorry because you're going to think I was making fun of you. But honestly, it just gets stuck and it takes me, like when I watched Barb and Star.
Go to Vista Del
Boy,
Mar.
that one lasted a while. And then there was a Chicago one I picked up for a while when I was watching Happy Endings because he I don't know. I didn't even know it existed as a separate thing. And then I couldn't, it was Max. He said his name, Max. And then I was talking like Max for a while. Then my husband started watching it. And I think he was like, Because I binge watched it because I loved it. I've watched it twice through now. And I just discovered it during the pandemic.
Apparently I sound fairly Canadian when I used to talk to my mom or when I now talk to my sister on the phone. Just like, I don't need to hear what you're saying. I just listen to how you're pronouncing the words. And I can't hear the difference when I'm talking to them.
Yeah, my mom goes okie if she gets upset. And when she was around her dad, then he was daddy. And then, she slipped her right back into the...
Yep.
Yeah. So, but again, I mean, my dad was born in California. My mom was born in Oregon. So, other than criticizing how people pronounce Oregon and Willamette River and all of that, I don't really have...
Willamette?
Damn it. And that Maryland, I don't know. I just have a weird assortment of things. I think I probably do have some kind of accent, but it's not a Minnesota one.
No. And I do. It's really funny to me because I do Facebook Lives for the store where I work, and I'll be talking about something and I'll go, oh my God, it's a bag. And I'm like, I just slip in and out of accents while I'm doing your brain just goes where your brain goes. So,
yeah.
And people are like, how do you do that? You're so funny. And I'm like, no, I'm just that's just the way my brain works.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be certain phrases and words that kick back to things. And I have certain phrases and words that'll kick me into an accent that was never mine because it's the one I've joked around with or whatever.
We'll have coffee. We'll talk.
We'll have coffee. That's right.
Coffee talk.
Bob. Okay. So, all right. It's time now to say our website is mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com. Our email is mysteriesmonstersmayhem@gmail.com. Oh, and we got a letter in and I still haven't. We'll have to say it next time.
Yes.
We got a letter from somebody and I totally forgot because I even had it on a different screen, but that's the problem. So anyways, rate, review, send us messages about fun stuff that you want us to read on here because honestly we're not picky, and as long as we're entertained and it will entertain others, then
we have a very low threshold for what amuses us.
I mean, honestly, I'm really easy to please. So I think that's what people don't understand about me. Like, I joked that with my husband and he's like, are you? And I was like, I'm upset. What do you get me? Barbecue. Yeah, that's right. How hard am I to please? If you feed me
or chocolate,
I'm yours. If you are nice to my children, suddenly
yep.
I can take a lot if you're kind to my children.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing I've noticed, and I'm like, oh, they're so nice to my child, even though I hate their guts, and now I like them, and I'll be nice to them and let them come to my house because they're nice.
Is that why I'm here?
Oh, my girl child graduated from her ABA therapy, Yay! And they gave her a whole big neat basket. Nice. Oh, so I was like, I just got you assorted bundt cakes as a thank you. I feel, but yeah, and they were so sad to see her go. And the director person hung out with her on her last day with her aide and everything to say bye.
Wow,
sweet.
That's very nice.
I liked her.
Who wouldn't?
I don't know.
She's
Who
delightful.
Wouldn't? She is delightful. So yeah, that was very sweet.
And she laughs at my jokes. So.
It's true. And she gets embarrassed really easily. My sister loves that. She was like, she's so easy to embarrass. So, by the way, never claim that somebody who's autistic can't be embarrassed, because that's not true.
That is
really easy for her. But every person is an individual, whether they have autism or not. Anyway, hey, thanks for listening to us, you guys, as we babble incessantly. Have a lovely day.
Thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful week. Go scuff through some leaves.
Do it. Make noise. Make noise in your life, no matter what. I think that's a good motto.
Yes. Make noise in your life.
We sure as shit do.
We do.
Okay. Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.